Hello there everyone, and welcome back to the mini album workshop. So this is the third video for today. I just want to do a quick recap. So we've gone through the process of how you go about choosing your papers, even though it's difficult, I know. And we've talked about cutting the papers down by using the chart that we had originally, and bearing in mind that we're going from the height of the paper and half the width of the paper as well, or I should say cardstock, and then taking 1/8 of an inch off each of those two measurements to be able to work out what size we need to cut our papers. I've gone through the process of talking about deciding how you're going to cut your papers, more so with larger decorated areas with specific patterns on, and also the thought process that we needed to go through for the pages where we're going to be having the flip open and the flip up pages. The next part of the process is to actually now start to ink these up and make another decision, which is rounding the corners of your papers. So this is one of the sheets that is going to go on this front part here. I could decide to round all 4 of my corners. I actually have decided that I'm only going to round 2 of the corners, and that's on this open end, not on the folded side. So where the fold is, I'm actually going to leave them to be square. Alright, so it's on this edge that I'm going to do rounded corners. So I'm just going to go through and round those off. So I'm not doing these 2 corners here. You'll be thankful to know I've already done all of these. Okay, so then I'm going to stick this first page to the cardboard base page. Now I'm going to use my collal glue. You might decide to use a PVA tacky glue. You might decide to use your Tombow Mono glue. You just need to make sure that it's a glue that will give you a good contact. Now I'm not gluing it right up to the edge because I know that with this being a liquid glue, it is going to ooze out from the paper, but I want to make sure that I've got really good coverage right the way across. I want to open that up a little. Right the way across the whole of the page, because there's going to be nothing worse. This isn't coming out very well. There's going to be nothing worse than having parts of the paper stuck and then other parts bubbling up because it hasn't got a strong enough contact. So I'm going to put plenty of glue on, but again I'm not going to do it too close to the edge because I don't want it oozing out. Although if it does do that, it's not a hardship because it will rub off quite easily. Now the other thing that I've done as well with these pages is I've inked them all up beforehand as well. Just line that up and then I can come back to that in a second. Now the ink that I've used my walnut stain, although you can't tell, look, it's covered in ink. So I've just dabbed it in the ink and I've just run it off the edge of all of the pages, all the way around the sides. Now part of the reason for doing that is that if you actually looked at the edge of the paper, it has a white core, so it means that when you cut into this paper you can see the white edge. Right, so it could be dark green on this side, pale green on this side, but you would still see white, you wouldn't see green. And because it's going to be sitting on a darker cardstock, I just want to blend it out so that it's not a stark contrast between the edge of the paper and the card that it's going to be sitting on. So that's why I've just inked up around all 4 of the sides. All right. Now, you may decide that you do not want to round the corners of your pages. You might decide to just leave them square, but I just think it just gives it a slightly more professional finish to the actual page, and then I'm just using my bone folder to just move that glue about underneath to make sure that it's got a good contact. Just got a tiny bit of glue just oozed out there then, but fortunately with this collal glue it does just rub off, which is really nice. So that's my first page done. With the rest of the papers, because I've got doubles of everything, I'm going to just put them in place before I actually glue them down. Now again, what I've done is I've rounded these two corners off here but left these square, and I've rounded these two corners off here and left these square. Alright, so that will sit like that. And then I'm going to put the next two in place. Now the other thing that I did as well was I went through my papers and I put them into a semblance of order, because I'll show you why in a sec. I didn't want two of the pages next door to each other. So you see these two pages here and these papers here. If you remember in the last video I said that I was going to use these papers and then use a decorative paper on top, one to flip out and then there'll be another one to flip up. So I didn't want these on this page and then these on this page. I wanted them to be separated. So I went through the papers and I put them into an order that I thought worked. So as I say, I'm just going to sit them in place. Now I've corner rounded them and inked them all up so that I can just, before I glue them all in place, I can open up the next page and say, right, okay, so that's going to be next, that's going to be there, and I can get a sense, I can get a feeling of what it's going to look like when it's done. Because I've used duplicate papers, I just want to make sure that they're not right next door to each other and that it flows colour wise. I've missed, there we go, and then that will be there. So I'm happy with that arrangement of papers throughout the album. So I will now go through and I will make sure that I've corner rounded, happy with that, and that I've inked, yeah, happy with that. I've positioned them where I want them throughout the mini album, yeah, happy with that. So I'm now going to glue them all into place. I'm not going to bore you with watching me do that, because I think you all know how to go about doing that by now. But again, I would just add them on, glue them in place all the way through, and be ready for the next part of the mini album instruction. So there'll be more tomorrow for the next lot of videos for the next lot of the process. Thanks very much for watching, and don't forget, if you've got any questions, ask them on group. Don't be afraid, I won't bite. Well, not much anyway. Alright, see you again soon. Bye for now.